What if a small act of kindness, something you did every day without thinking, was actually a test? A test that could change your entire life. This is the true story of Maria Santos, and what she discovered will shock you. Maria was a cleaner. That was her job. That was her life. Every single day. She woke up at 4 a.m. Her alarm clock was old and cracked. The sound was so loud it could wake the dead. But Maria never complained. She never hit snooze. She just got up. Her daughter. Sophia was still sleeping in the next room. Sophia was only 6 years old. Her father had left them 3 years ago. He did not leave money. He left only pain and empty promises. Maria had to be both mother and father. She had to be strong for her child. The apartment was small and cold. The walls were thin. You could hear the neighbors fighting next door. The kitchen had only one working stove. The bathroom tiles were broken, but it was home. It was the only home Maria could afford. She made Sophia breakfast before leaving. Always the same thing. Toast with butter and a glass of milk. Sophia would sit at the small table and eat slowly. She was always sad in the morning. She missed her father, even though he had never been kind to her. Maria would kiss her daughter's head and whisper the same thing every day. Mama will be back soon. My love, be good for Miss Rosa. Mama loves you so much. Miss Rosa was her neighbor. She watched Sophia during the day. She was old and tired, but she was good to Sophia. Maria gave her $100 every month. That money was almost half of her income. But there was no other choice. The cleaning job started at 6 a.m. Maria took 2 buses to get there. The first bus was always crowded. Sweaty people pushed against her. The second bus was worse. It went through the dangerous parts of the city. But Maria never felt fear. She only felt tired. She cleaned the big office building for 8 hours. She cleaned bathrooms. She cleaned desks. She cleaned floors. Her hands became dry and cracked from all the cleaning chemicals. Her back hurt every day. Her legs swelled up at night. But the job paid $400 a week. This was enough. Just barely enough. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a cold Tuesday morning in November. Maria was cleaning the offices on the top floor when she saw something strange. An old envelope was stuck under a desk. It was yellow with age. The paper was so fragile it looked like it could fall apart in her hands. She picked it up carefully. The envelope had a name on it. Mr. Robert Henderson. He was the old man who used to own this building. He had died 3 months ago. Nobody talked about him much. He had no family. He had no friends. He had just been alone. Like so many people in the city, Maria should have thrown the envelope away, but something made her open it. Inside was a letter. The handwriting was shaky, the ink was faded, but the words were clear, and they made Maria's heart beat very fast to whoever finds this. The letter began, I am old and I am dying. I have no one left in this world. I have decided to give my things to the person who shows me kindness. The person who sees me as a human, not as a rich man, not as a poor man, but as a human who is alone. Maria read the words again, and then again. But what did this mean? She read more. The letter explained that Mr. Henderson had been watching the people who worked in his building. He had been sick for a long time. He would sit in his office and watch. He saw people steal from him. He saw people ignore him. He saw people be rude to him. But he also saw Maria. He saw her every day. The letter said he saw how she worked hard. He saw how she was always kind to everyone. One day, he had fallen in the hallway. He had hit his head badly. He could not get up. He was lying on the cold floor. All the other workers walked past him. They did not see him. Or maybe they did see him, but they did not care. But Maria stopped. She called the ambulance. She held his hand while they waited. She told him that everything would be okay. She sat with him in the hospital. She brought him tea and cookies. She never asked for money. She never asked for anything. Mr. Henderson never forgot that day now. In his letter, he was leaving her something. Maria's hands were shaking as she read the rest. She could barely see the words through her tears. Mr. Henderson wrote that he had a yacht. It was very old. It was in a storage place by the water. He wrote that she needed to go and claim it. Everything that was on the yacht belonged to her now. Everything. At the bottom of the letter was an address. And Maria sat down on the floor right there in Mr. Henderson's old office. She could not believe what she was reading. A yacht. Why would he leave her a yacht? She did not know anything about boats. She did not know how to sail. What was she supposed to do with a yacht? But she had the key, and she had nothing to lose that evening. After picking up Sophia, Maria told her about the secret she did not tell her about the yacht. She just said that an old friend had left them a surprise. Sophia was excited. She always loved surprises. Even though surprises were rare in their life, took a bus to the water. The address was for a storage place called Marina Bay. Storage. It was far from where they lived. It took them almost 2 hours to get there. Sophia slept on Maria's shoulder for most of the trip. The storage place was huge. There were hundreds of boats and yachts inside. Some looked new and shiny. Some looked very old. Some looked like they were falling apart. The man at the front desk looked at Maria like she did not belong there. He was wearing a fancy uniform. He had a gold ring on his finger. "Can I help you?" he asked. But his voice was not friendly. Maria showed him the letter and the key. His face changed. His eyes opened wide. "Follow me," he said. They walked through the storage place for a long time, past boat after boat. Sophia was holding Maria's hand tightly. She was getting scared. Finally, they reached the far corner of the building, and there it was. The yacht was huge. It was much bigger than Maria had imagined. It was white with blue stripes, but the paint was old and faded. The hull was rusty in many places. The windows were covered with dust and salt spray. The railing was broken in several spots. The wooden deck had holes in it. You could see water underneath. It looked like it had not been used in 50 years. Sophia gasped, "Mama, look how big it is." The man told Maria that the yacht had been in storage for 43 years. It belonged to Mr. Henderson. Nobody had ever used it. Nobody had ever cleaned it. Nobody had ever even opened the doors in more than 4 decades. Maria stood there looking at the boat. What was she going to do with this? She could not sell it. It was too old and broken. She could not keep it. It would cost money just to store it. She did not have money. She barely had enough to eat. But something told her to look inside. The key fit the lock on the main cabin door. The door was stuck. It took all of Maria's strength to push it open when it finally moved. Dust came pouring out like a cloud. Sophia coughed and covered her nose. Inside the yacht was dark and cold. Maria turned on the light switch. A small light came on at the far end of the cabin. It was very dim, but she could see enough. The main cabin was like a small living room. There was a leather sofa. There was a table made of dark wood. There were paintings on the walls. But everything was covered in dust. Spiders had built webs in every corner. Sophia held Maria's hand. "Mama, it is so scary." She whispered, "Do not worry, my love." Maria said, "Mama is here." Maria walked through the cabin slowly. Everything inside was of good quality. Even though it was old and dusty, you could see that it had been expensive once. There were silver, cups and plates. There were photographs in frames. There were books on shelves. And then Maria saw something that made her stop. There was a painting on the wall. It was a portrait of a young man and woman. They were smiling. The woman was wearing a white dress. The man was wearing a blue suit. They looked so happy. They looked so in love. Below the painting was a nameplate. It said Robert and Catherine, June 1952. This was Mr. Henderson when he was young, and this was his wife. Maria felt tears in her eyes. This boat was not just a boat. It was full of memories. It was full of love. It was a piece of Mr. Henderson's heart. She continued walking through the yacht. There were 3 bedrooms. There was a kitchen that was very modern for its time. There was a small library. Everything told the story of a man and woman who had loved this place, who had loved each other, who had been happy here. But what had happened to his wife? Maria did not know in the main bedroom. She found more clues. There were 2 photos on the nightstand. One showed Mr. Henderson and Catherine as young people on this yacht. The other showed them at what looked like a hospital. Catherine looked very sick. Mr. Henderson was holding her hand. His face looked so sad, so broken. Maria understood now Catherine had died. Mr. Henderson had been alone for a very long time. This yacht was all he had left of his love, for 43 years. He had kept it in storage. He could not use it. He could not come here. It would hurt too much to remember. But then he met Maria, and she showed him kindness. And maybe she had reminded him that life was still worth living, that people were still good, that love was still real. Even though his Catherine was gone, Sophia tugged on Maria's sleeve. "Mama, can we go? This place makes me sad." "Yes, baby," Maria said. "Let us go." But as they walked toward the door, Maria saw something else. It was a small chest. It was made of dark wood, with brass corners. It was sitting in the corner of the bedroom. It looked locked, but the key in Maria's pocket fit this lock too. She opened the chest slowly. Inside were papers. Many papers. They were yellowed with age. There were certificates. There were old letters. There were photographs. And then Maria saw something that made her blood run cold. There was a legal document. It was from the year 1952. At the top, it said title deed, and underneath, it listed a property address. And underneath that, it said the value. In 1952 dollars, the amount was written in numbers so large that Maria could barely comprehend them. "What is that, Mama?" Sophia asked. "I do not know, baby," Maria whispered. There was also a recent appraisal form. It was dated just 2 months before Mr. Henderson had died. It was from a professional appraiser. At the bottom of the form was a new number. A number that was even larger. The number was written as a total property assessment. $30 million. No. Wait. There was another document. This one said $25 million. This was also very new. Also dated 2 months before his death. Maria dropped the papers. Her legs felt weak. She sat down on the floor of that yacht. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it would explode. $25 million. How could this be? She picked up the papers with shaking hands and read them very carefully. The property was an apartment building, not just any apartment building. One of the most valuable buildings in the entire city. In 1952, Mr. Henderson had bought it when it was falling apart. He had fixed it up. He had rented the apartments. And over the decades, the neighborhood had changed. The buildings had become very valuable. And now, that apartment building was worth $25 million. This building belonged to Mr. Henderson, and now, according to his will, it belonged to Maria. She read the will document again. It was all there in legal words that she did not fully understand. But the meaning was clear. Mr. Henderson had no children. He had no brothers or sisters. He had no cousins or nephews or nieces. He had no one, except Maria. And so, in his last will and testament, he had given everything to her: the apartment building, the yacht, all the money in his bank accounts, everything. But what would Maria do when she discovered the full truth? That was the question, because when she showed these documents to a lawyer, they would tell her something that would change her life forever, something she had not expected, something that would make her entire world different. The lawyer was a kind man named Mr. Jackson. His office was in a tall building downtown. Maria had saved money and taken time off work to meet with him. He looked at the documents very carefully. He read them again. And then he looked at Maria over the top of his glasses. "These are legitimate," he said slowly. "All of this is completely legal. This man, Mr. Henderson, did indeed execute a proper will. And you, Maria Santos, are named as the sole beneficiary." Maria could not speak. "But there is more," Mr. Jackson continued. "I have already begun preliminary investigations. The apartment building, I have spoken to the current property manager. The building has been generating income for decades. Mr. Henderson has been collecting rent. All of that money has been sitting in various bank accounts. It has been accumulating interest. There is almost $8 million in cash just sitting in these accounts." Maria felt like she was dreaming. "You are now a very wealthy woman," Mr. Jackson said. "What will you do with this?" But Maria could not answer the question right away. That evening, she sat with Sophia on their small bed in their small apartment. She told her daughter everything. Sophia was only 6 years old. She did not fully understand, but she understood that something big had happened. "Does this mean we can move, Mama?" Sophia asked. "Does this mean we can get a better apartment?" Maria held her daughter close. Tears ran down her face. "Yes, my love," she said. "Yes, we can move." But moving was just the beginning. Over the next weeks and months, Maria's life changed completely. She quit her cleaning job for the first time in years. She did not have to wake up at 4 a.m. She could sleep. She could rest. She rented a beautiful apartment in a nice neighborhood. Sophia got her own bedroom. The apartment had heat that worked. The water was always hot. There was plenty of food in the kitchen. Sophia was so happy she could barely speak, but Maria felt something strange. She felt guilty. She did not feel happy like she thought she would. She felt confused. She felt scared. One day, she went back to the old apartment building that now belonged to her. The building where poor people lived. People like she used to be. People who were struggling. People who had almost nothing. She walked through the hallways and looked at the apartments. She saw families like hers, mothers and children, people working 2 and 3 jobs, people who could barely pay their rent. The building was old and needed repairs. The roof leaked. The heat did not always work. The bathrooms were not very clean. This was her building now, and suddenly, Maria understood what she had to do. She called the property manager. She told him her plan. She was going to fix every apartment in the building. She was going to make it beautiful and clean and safe. But she was not going to raise the rent. She was going to lower it. She was going to give poor families like she used to be a chance. The property manager thought she was crazy. But Miss Santos, if you lower the rent, you will make no money. You will go broke. Why would you do this? Because I used to live like that. Maria said, I used to be poor. I used to be scared. I used to wonder how I would pay for food. And nobody helped me. Someone helped me in the end. Now it is my turn to help others. Maria spent millions of dollars fixing the apartment building. She hired the best workers. She fixed the roof. She fixed the heating system. She painted all the walls. She put new floors in. She made it into a beautiful place. Then she lowered the rent by 30%. Families moved in from all over the city. Good families who were struggling. Families with children. Families with hope. Families who suddenly could afford to live in a safe, clean, beautiful place. And Maria felt something she had not felt in years. She felt peace. But then, something happened that nobody expected. A journalist heard about Maria's story. About the cleaning woman who inherited millions and then used the money to help poor families. The journalist wanted to write about her. At first, Maria said no. She did not want to be famous. She just wanted to help people. But the journalist was very kind. She convinced Maria to let her tell the story. The story was published in the newspaper, and then it was shared on the internet, and then it went viral. Millions of people read it. Millions of people were touched by her story. Millions of people were inspired. News networks wanted to interview her. Radio stations wanted to talk to her. Companies wanted to give her money to support her cause. Suddenly, Maria was famous. But more importantly, her story made other wealthy people think. They saw what Maria had done. They saw how she had used her money to help others. And they began to do the same. One man who had been very rich and very selfish for his whole life read about Maria. He called his family. He told them that he wanted to change. He wanted to give his money to help people, just like Maria. His family thought he was sick. They took him to the hospital, but he was not sick. He was just awakened. He was just seeing the world differently for the first time. Another woman who had been lonely for many years read about Maria's story. She thought about how Mr. Henderson had been lonely too. She thought about how one act of kindness had changed everything. So she started to be kind to people around her. She started to notice lonely people. She started to help them. And her life became full of meaning, full of purpose, full of joy. Maria's story spread around the world. People in other countries heard about it. People who spoke different languages. People who lived different lives. But they all understood the same thing. They all understood that kindness matters, that one person can change the world, that love is more powerful than money. Years passed. Sophia grew up. She became a teacher. She wanted to teach children about kindness. She wanted to teach them that no act of kindness is too small, that everyone matters, that you never know how your actions will touch someone else's life. Maria started a foundation. It was called the Henderson Foundation, named after Mr. Henderson. The foundation helped poor families. It gave them money for education. It helped them start businesses. It helped them get out of poverty. The foundation changed thousands of lives. But most importantly, Maria never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the cold apartment. She never forgot waking up at 4 a.m. She never forgot being so tired that she could barely see. She never forgot being afraid that she could not pay the rent. She never forgot. And so, whenever she helped someone, she remembered. She remembered what it felt like. She remembered the pain. She remembered the hope. She remembered everything. One day, Maria went to the cemetery where Mr. Henderson was buried. She brought Sophia with her. Sophia was grown up now. She was a beautiful young woman. She had her mother's kindness. She had her mother's strength. They stood at Mr. Henderson's grave. Maria put flowers there, white flowers, like the ones on Catherine's grave, right next to it, Mr. Henderson. Maria said, "I do not know if you can hear me, but I want you to know something. I want you to know that your kindness did not go to waste every time I help someone. I am thinking of you. Every time someone's life is changed, it is because of you. You are still changing the world. You are still saving people. And you are not alone anymore. You will never be alone, because you will live in my heart. And you will live in the hearts of everyone I have helped." Sophia took her mother's hand. "Thank you, Mr. Henderson," Sophia said. "Thank you for showing my mother that the world can be good." As they walked away from the grave, Maria turned back one more time. She looked at the gravestone, and she whispered something so quietly that only the wind could hear. "You were testing me, were you not? You were testing to see if a poor woman would remember kindness, if she would help others, if she would believe that love matters more than money. And I passed your test. Mr. Henderson, I passed." The wind seemed to answer her. It moved through the trees. It made the flowers on the grave dance. And for just a moment, it felt like Mr. Henderson was there. It felt like he was smiling years later. People would ask Maria the same question over and over again. "Maria, do you ever regret giving away so much money? Do you ever wish that you had kept it for yourself? Do you ever wish that you and Sophia could have had more?" And Maria would always answer the same way. No, she would say never, because I learned something that money could never teach me. I learned that the richest person in the world is not the person with the most money. The richest person in the world is the person with the most love, the most meaning, the most purpose. And where did you learn this? They would ask, and Maria would smile. From a lonely old man, she would say, who showed me that kindness is never too small to matter. That one act of kindness can change everything. That we are all connected. And that if we just pay attention, if we just open our eyes, we will see that the world is full of people who need help, people who need love, people who need hope. And that old man taught me the greatest lesson of all. He taught me that to truly live is not to take from the world. To truly live is to give to the world, to leave it better than you found it, to help others, to love freely, to believe that every person matters. Maria's story became a legend. Parents told their children about the cleaning woman, and the yacht and the hidden fortune teachers taught about her in classrooms. Social workers used her story to inspire their clients. Therapists used her story to help depressed patients see that hope existed. Ministers used her story in churches to talk about the power of faith and kindness, but most importantly, Maria's story inspired people to actually change their lives all across the world. People started thinking differently about money, started thinking differently about kindness, started thinking differently about their purpose on earth. Billionaires started giving away billions, not because they had to, but because they wanted to, because they had read Maria's story and understood that life was not about having more. It was about giving more. Teachers started paying more attention to their students, not just teaching them subjects, but teaching them values, teaching them that they had the power to change the world. Parents started teaching their children about kindness from a very young age, telling them stories about Maria and Mr. Henderson, telling them that no act of kindness is ever too small. And it all started with one act, one cleaning woman who stopped to help an old man who had fallen, one woman who saw another human being and cared, one woman who was kind when she did not have to be. This is the true power of kindness. This is what one person can do. This is what you can do, because maybe, just maybe, you are being tested right now. Maybe someone in your life is testing your kindness. Maybe your boss, maybe your friend, maybe a stranger on the street, maybe someone you have never met and you do not know it yet. But your kindness is being observed. Your love is being seen. Your compassion is changing the world. Even if you do not realize it one day, you might look back and realize that the smallest thing you did had the biggest impact. That the kindness you gave, without even thinking about it, changed someone's entire life, just like Maria, just like Mr. Henderson, just like you, because this is the secret that the world does not want you to know. This is the truth that powerful people try to hide, that you have the power to change everything, not with money, not with power, but with kindness, with love, with compassion, with hope. When Maria was old, very old, she sat with her grandchildren around her. Sophia had children of her own, beautiful children, full of the same kindness that their mother had, full of the same love that their grandmother had. Maria told them the story. One last time, she told them about the yacht. She told them about Mr. Henderson. He told them about the hidden treasure that was not gold or jewels, but something far more valuable. She told them about the power of kindness, and her granddaughter, who was only 7 years old, asked her a question. Grandmother, was Mr. Henderson rich because he had so much money, or was he poor because he had no one to love? Maria smiled. It was the first time anyone had ever asked her that question, and she realized that this little girl understood something that most people spend their whole lives trying to learn. He was poor. My darling Maria said he was very poor. He had money, but he had no love. He had a beautiful yacht, but he was alone. He had everything that money could buy, but he had nothing that money could not buy. And that is the saddest kind of poverty. The poverty of the soul. But then you helped him, the little girl said. Maria said, I helped him and he helped me and we helped each other, and in the end, we were both rich, not because of money, but because of love. The little girl hugged her grandmother, and in that moment, the story came full circle. The kindness that had started so many years ago, with a cleaning woman helping an old man on a cold floor, had now passed to the next generation. The chain of love had not been broken. It would never be broken, because this is what happens when you choose kindness. This is what happens when you choose love. This is what happens when you choose to see other people as human beings worthy of your care and attention. The impact spreads, it grows, it multiplies, and generations later, children who were not even born yet will feel its effects. So what if a small act of kindness, something you do every day without thinking, was actually a test that could change your entire life and the lives of everyone around you and the lives of everyone they love and the lives of everyone, those people. Love forever. This is not just a story about a yacht and hidden money. This is a story about you. This is a story about your power. This is a story about what you can do starting today, starting now, starting with the next person you meet, because you might be someone's Mr. Henderson. You might be someone's test. You might be the kindness that changes everything. You might be the love that someone has been waiting for their whole life. And you will never know unless you try, unless you care, unless you choose kindness. So this is my question for you. What will you do? Will you pass the test? Will you be the kindness that changes the world? Or will you walk past the lonely person on the floor? The choice is yours. The power is in your hands, and your life, and the lives of everyone around you, depends on what you do next. This is the story of Maria Santos. But this is also your story. It is every person's story. It is the story of humanity itself. And it all comes down to one simple choice. Will you be kind? Yes or no? That is all. That is everything. Choose wisely, because your choice will echo through eternity.